everybody. Welcome back to AM 1220 KHTS, Santa Cruz hometown station, the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John. We are talking to Mr. Perry Smith, the news director here at KHTS, about the upcoming city council elections for this Santa Clarita, California. So, Perry, what do you think are going to be the hot topics that some of these challengers are going to try to grab a hold of to challenge the incumbents to try to unseat them?
I think you're going to have a lot of talk about the development, as far as there seems to be very strong opinions one way or the other. Do we have too much development? Do we want more development? Are we, using our land to the best of our abilities? What's the direction that we want to go in? Because we're still, the county and the city both approved that master plan a couple years ago, and that's going to be a big driver for how the direction of our valley goes and how that bears out for the next 20 years. You're going to see more people coming, obviously, and it's just how do we want to prepare for that?
So growth, development, those are pretty standard issues.
Right.
What about something specific like the billboards?
Well, that's an issue. I think that's going to be. It looks like that's going to be taken care of by the time the election happens.
Yeah, the whole taking the billboards out of Soledad and
right, and it looks like
the money and everything.
I mean, the planning commission is recommended with a 3-1 vote, so you're probably going to see the city council bear through on that. I think the California Voting Rights Act is really going to be, the Lowe's lawsuits is going to be probably one of the biggest things.
That could change the entire landscape of the city.
Absolutely, and these things are very slow moving. People, generally want the action a little bit faster than the court process allows. But I think you're going to see some major changes there in the next year potentially. If Palmdale's any indication, you're going to see some local change, and that could dynamically change the council.
Probably for the next election, not this one.
Right, but in Palmdale they made the decision, and then now they're in the process of deciding whether or not in the courts that's going to negate the election that they just had. So we have this election in April.
They could conceivably go back and negate the election.
Exactly,
really?
They could.
Wow.
The court could order, and whether or not that stands up is going to be decided within about 4 to 6 months. But it's going to happen after our election. We'll see what happens.
If it was up to me.
It's not. Moving along. Okay, so what about...
So I think that's the issue.
It seems to me, why should this... I don't know. I don't get it. Why would the city want to spend all this money to fight this
Doug,
if it's the inevitable?
Doug, we're moving on.
If
You're right, but we're moving on. We don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to Perry. That's why he's here. You're barely here.
But no, I mean, Doug brings up the exact question that a lot of people who are in favor of the lawsuits are asking, whereas the proponents say, why do we need districts when we have representation?
You don't have to kowtow to Doug. It's okay.
What about... It's your guys' hour.
What about things like, they say Santa Clarita is now a good city for the job seeker. Okay. But what about businesses? I think businesses are taking in the shorts in Santa Clarita. It's very difficult to open a new business. There's a lot of permit issues. I think that's going to be a big issue.
That is, if I can jump, is it okay if I jump in, John?
Yeah, well,
I'm not a business.
You have half the show. You have half the show.
One of the biggest, the most common complaint I hear regarding the city, and it's been for years, is the permitting process to open a new business. You get people that get angry at the process. They get so frustrated, and they actually are practically broke before they open the doors because of unanticipated expenditures to meet the permitting process they weren't expecting.
Yeah, and that's something I think the city council is going to show us. But what about, there's with 12 candidates, if somebody came to you, one of them came to you and said, okay, hey, how do I set myself apart? It's almost going to be impossible for them to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have people like Alan Furman has certainly aligned himself with the chloride issue, and which has been
kind of
very contentious. Yeah, it's done. But certainly how that gets enacted and how that bears through could depend on how much we pay for the chloride rates. And but I mean, it's an issue as far as what's going to get done next time something like that happens, or there's an issue with the water.
Right.
I mean, we're facing a drought circumstances. So I mean,
that's going to be an issue.
What are they going to latch onto? And like you're saying, it is difficult to kind of separate yourself when you have 12 people.
Right.
So that's going to be one of the things, as a journalist, we're going to be watching and closely to see what the strategy is there.
Even as a voter, how am I supposed to How am I supposed to pick one or pick three? Or my gosh.
And that's why you see a lot of in the local elections. Someone like Maria Goodside or someone like Alan Furman, who has the Canyon Country Advisory Committee, or Gloria Mercado Fortune, Kine, who's on the Hart District Board, that's a huge advantage because you already have that recognition and you've already earned the votes of thousands of people, and so that's gonna play a big role.
Some of those things are elected positions, some of them aren't.
Right, but when I talk about the tiers, that's what you're talking about as far as that access to the voters, and not just the voters, but those people who actually vote, which is obviously, as we both know, a much smaller segment.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Perry, I'm of the opinion, and I'm probably traffic will come up somewhere along the line. Everybody agrees we have a traffic problem, and I think one of the ways to alleviate it, if you could have some sort of road that went over the mountain via Princessa or over Burmite Whitaker in that area, that would greatly, if you didn't have to go around that mountain range.
I'm going to go on the record saying it wasn't Frank Ferry that closed the lanes in Soledad, okay? That was a joke. It was a joke.
I was joking.
More roundabouts, right?
More roundabouts.
That's what everybody seems to want.
More roundabouts, yes.
Okay, so my question is, what is taking so long to get some sort of road to go over that mountain range? To me, that is a hot topic. I don't know if it will be in the election, but for me personally, that's a hot topic.
I think one thing that the city looks at when they assess the need there is just, do we have the money to do this? Are we going to be able to get the grant money that's going to allow us to develop this land? I mean, that's been in my experience talking to them. So, I mean, in a sense, you'd have to have an overwhelming majority demand something before you would have the city have the right or necessarily the justification to go ahead and say, we're going to spend all of this taxpayer money, because then how else do you justify it unless you're getting those federal grants that are
But what about the soil in the Burmite and Whitaker that's still not cleaned up completely? What is taking so long?
I just think there was so much from the munitions plant that was there for like 50 years during World War II. I mean, dumping it back, that goes way back, and they are in the process of doing that. But I don't know that that's necessarily. I mean, that's a federal cleanup effort with the city, and I don't know that they're necessarily
it's not going to move fast.
In activity, it's just you want to be careful. You don't want to rush a situation like that.
Okay, but this is a real good example of my point. Is there's so many issues. There's so many multifaceted things. To me, when I pick my candidate, I look at, okay, well, what are the issues that are important to me? Sometimes I vote my pocketbook, sometimes I vote my conscience. How are people? I think KHTS is doing a forum. There's a whole bunch of other places, but tell me a little bit about the KHTS forum so that people can get an idea of who these people are and make a decision.
Thanks, John. On February 22nd, we're going to be inviting the people with SCV TV to sit down and discuss some of the issues. We're going to have it filmed so people get a chance to see, and we're going to look at some of those questions that you guys brought up as far as traffic, business, development, what the issues are based on what we've seen and what we've been reporting on for the last year or so.
And that's going to be on SCV TV?
Right.
Okay.
Simulcast on KHTS?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Your hometown station.
It's both. It's everybody's hometown station.
Absolutely.
If somebody wanted to submit a question, could they contact you directly?
Absolutely. Community at hometownstation.com or info@hometownstation.com. We always welcome community feedback and their input, and we talk to Doug and John. You guys have some questions that you want to see asked, and I think those are some great questions as far as like development and the roads. And
Perry, are you concerned at all with the forum? If you look back when they had the presidential primary debates, and there was so many up on that stage, and it got a little convoluted, and are you anticipating a problem with that with the number of candidates you're going to have at the forum?
I think we're just going to throw a microphone out there and let them wrestle for it. I think that'd be a lot of fun. The most entertaining.
Hey, pay-per-view. Pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean,
3 words, pay-per-view.
Do you think that's going to draw watchers? You tell me. I think so.
1995. All right, Perry. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Doug, you want to thank him too?
Thanks, Perry. Appreciate it.
You were kind of mean.
And you will be on again. Don't worry.
I appreciate that. Look forward to it.
All right. You're listening to Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John and Perry Smith from KHTS. We are on AM 1220 KHTS, Santa Cruz hometown station. We'll be right back talking something fun, I hope. Maybe sports.
Okay.